Well, welcome to Friday Q&A. I thought I would take some time every Friday and answer some of your questions that I get during the week. I got a question this week in a live from a woman who had just lost her job. She was planning her wedding, and then all of a sudden both things were in jeopardy. She lost her job, and now she didn't know if she was going to be able to do the wedding. And so she said she had kind of done everything she could, but she was feeling still so stressed, and that she didn't know kind of what to do next. Ask for my advice. At times when I feel completely crushed by outside circumstances, I want to look inside and figure out what is it that's got me so fearful and what's got me so anxious. And it's easy to say, oh, I lost my job. Of course I'm going to feel anxious. But there's deeper things at play there. And if we can kind of look at what's underneath and not just kind of go, I lost my job, oh shit, then we have a chance to kind of go, okay, what opportunities are there, not just for a new job, but for a new way of looking at my life situation. For example, when I was in my 20s, I wrote about this in my newsletter this week, I lost $50,000 in a business that I started, and then I had to close the business and bartend at night for years to pay that money off. I was so anxious in the business, and I was so anxious when the business failed. But when I got to a peaceful place and realized, okay, I have some options here. I've got to pay this money off so I can go back to bartending. I didn't want to do that, but I did, and I made peace with it. And I started to think, okay, what other thing could I do that I want to do? This was around the time that the web was becoming a thing, back in 2000. And so I started teaching myself web design when I wasn't bartending. And after a few years, I had paid off that 50 grand, scrimping and saving. And then I became a web designer, and I did that for a while. And that led to me becoming a web video creator. That led to me doing voice acting. That led to me doing the podcast. That led to me being right here today. That whole arc took almost 20 years. But the key was, when the failures came, instead of thinking, oh God, I gotta go into reactive mode, I tried to go into quiet mode. And that's not to say that there wasn't plenty of reactivity along the way, and plenty of anxiety, and plenty of oh shit moments. But when we can go inside and find a way to calm our mind, we can get into that gap between the feelings in our body of heat, pain, resistance, whatever they are that are where these thoughts start, and get into the gap between the feeling and the thought, so that we don't have to necessarily go off on the same repetitive thoughts about what bad things happening to us mean. When we can break that cycle, then we have lots of options to surrender to our own inner wisdom instead of our doubts. Because if we're just going to go off in reactive thinking, that reactive thinking is inevitably filled with doubt. And the doubt never gets us to a resolution that's going to bring us peace. It just ends up being more thinking that's about trying to solve the problem of life. Now, one thing this person mentioned was that they had even tried praying. And I don't personally pray, but I do think that the value of prayer lies in surrender, in a sort of not my will, thy will attitude. And when we can surrender to that, the way life is, rather than resisting the way life is, then we can bring intention to that place. Rather than trying to force life to meet our demands, we can surrender to what is, start there, and then bring our intentions into that space of surrender. And that is a magical alchemy that allows not just our best self to come forward, our deepest wisdom to be involved. It also lets synchronicity come into play. You don't know who's going to come into your life, who's going to bring an answer, who's going to bring a solution, who's going to bring an opportunity. But when we're mired in doubt, we don't see those answers. We don't see those opportunities. So I think it's really important, as hard as it is, to find a way to get to acceptance and stillness around what is. And then begin moving from there. Begin creating an intention that will lead to a next step, and then another step after that, and then another step after that. And before you know it, you're either very close or living your dream. So I hope that helped. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. I'm going to try and do this every Friday. Friday Q&A. Or you can DM me anywhere that DMs are found. And if this stuff is interesting to you and you want to learn more, you can join my Awaken Your Myth group at join.awakenyourmyth.com.